Hello and welcome or welcome back to Knit by Naya. Today is going to be my first ever knitting podcast, and I'll be discussing all of my recent finished objects, my current whips, active whips, and a couple of acquisitions / things I've been trying out with new yarn. So I hope you'll be excited to join me as we dive into some of the recent things I've been working on. So without further ado, I'm going to start with a couple of objects that were casted on and completed over the course of the past 3 or so months. They consisted mostly of camisoles that I knit for the warm weather. So the first two objects that I'll be starting with are both the camisole number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. So it's kind of crazy that I'm holding up two. I actually recorded this maybe a month ago now, and this gray one was still a whip, but I have since completed it. And the reason why I have two is because one is knit with a more summer appropriate fiber and one is using wool. So let's dive into this one first. I actually casted on the gray one first and then got really excited by this yarn. So I casted this one on and finished it first and then went back to the gray one. And that was also to give me a little bit more time to wear this one in the warmer weather. So this is knit with the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino. I believe it's in the shade Cream, and I used 3 balls to complete the size small. I have gotten a lot of wear out of this, which is why it's so wrinkly, but yeah, I knit this off gauge, so I used 2.5mm needles instead of 3s, and I decided to do this because when I knit with the 3mm needle, the fabric was a little bit gapey, especially because of how light colored this yarn is, and I didn't want the bust area to be see-through at all. Even though I wear this with like a bra underneath, I just wanted to make sure that you wouldn't be able to like see any of, my undergarments. So yeah, I knit this off gauge, and I had to make some modifications to the length of these like shoulder straps. I knit them a little bit longer than what was called for, since my row gauge was shorter, or less rows. And then I also modified the number of increases that I did for the neckline and then for the shoulder shaping. Since I had already completed the, I guess you could call it the yoke portion of this gray one, I was able to, this one was knit exactly to pattern on the 3mm needles. So I was able to kind of compare them as I went, and I made sure, or I tried to make sure, that the lengths were matching up and that the increased rates kind of matched for my size. So I would say it was pretty successful. The only thing is, I think I maybe added too many increases to the armhole openings, and I think if I could have done with a little bit less. Like if I were to hold both of them up, I feel like you can kind of see it's like very slight, but this cream one kind of protrudes a little bit further by like half an inch on each side. So yeah, I think I could have maybe done with a few less increases. And then I think there were some tension issues because of my row gauge. Like if you look at the underarms, there's a little bit of I don't know what to call it, rippling, I guess, at the underarm, either because my increases, I was like not monitoring like how tightly I was pulling from the existing rows to make those increases, if that makes sense. Or it could also be just that the number of increases I was doing for this row gauge could have been altered to better prevent that. But it's not too noticeable when I actually wear it, so I think it's okay. And then the next thing I noticed when I knit this is I think I did measure as I went along, as I said before, but I think I made these straps a little bit too long. It's not like the neckline sits too low, like it's not revealing or anything. It's just a little lower than I initially wanted. I really wanted like a very high neck tank top, and I think I achieved that with the other one much better, but this one just sits a little bit lower, which is still, you know, it still looks nice and is flattering. But I actually prefer wearing the top backwards so that I can get that high neck. And then I can always decide to like flip it back whenever I feel like it. And then the last thing is the fit of this one. I kind of had some issues with the fit because of, I guess, my bust size. The front of the garment doesn't include any bust shaping or any waist shaping or anything like that. So it kind of sits a little bit higher in the front than the back. And then I think it's a little too high for my liking. And then also the waist kind of is very boxy. So you just knit the length until however long, and then you do the finishing, the folded hem. So since there's no decreases or shaping or anything, it kind of just flares outwards. And I found that with the bottoms that I like to wear, it could be, you know, it could have some more shaping incorporated. And that's what I actually did with the other one. So let's get into this one. So for this one, I knit exactly to pattern on 3mm needles. I used the Tahiti brand of merino wool, which I believe is a blend of merino, nylon, viscose, and something else that I am forgetting. But I knit it in this gray color, which is kind of good for like transitioning into fall. I can layer it underneath my sweaters and things like that, or I can wear it out and pair it with like dark colored jeans, which I like. So for this one, the yoke is it's designed or knit exactly as the designer intended. And then for the rest of the body, I decided to incorporate some short rows in the front of the body. I did maybe just like an inch or maybe half an inch of short rows. So just a couple times back and forth. And I did this so that I could have a little bit more length in the front to accommodate my bust size. And then I went ahead and finished off normally. I actually forgot to size down my needle at the very end. The finishings call for, I think, a 2.5 millimeter needle, which is how I did the rest of them. But I was so excited to finish that I forgot to switch. So it's a little bulky. That's something that I could always go back and fix, or maybe not, because I could always tuck it into jeans or something like that to kind of hide that. But it's not crazy noticeable. It just kind of flares out, which it shouldn't do that. It should kind of cinch in. But besides that, I thought the fit was a little bit better. And I believe I also did the waist decreases. So I did just a few rows of decreases. And I believe this was done, let's see, let's count. I think I did every 12 rows. I did a decrease every 12 rows, basically for the rest of the body length. And that gave me just a closer fitting top. But yeah, that is the camisole number 9. Okay, so going along with the summer knits, I have another finished object to show you that is actually a gift knit. So I'm going to be gifting this soon for someone who's going on vacation, and I decided to choose a cotton fiber that I thought would be the most appropriate for like summer weather. And the place that they're going to has like a really warm climate, so I wanted it to be breathable and also something that they could potentially wash. I actually have to double check because I'm not sure if it's mercerized cotton. Let me show you first. It's this off-the-shoulder top, using the same method that I used in, I think, my first video. So yeah, that is this top, knit in the Premier Yarns Afternoon Cotton, which I have right here. Oh, okay, it's mercerized, so yes, this can be machine washed. Let's see, it says machine wash warm, lay flat to dry. So this is marked as a number 3, which is like a DK weight, and it calls for 3.5 millimeter needles, which is what I used. And I believe I used 2.5 balls to complete this top. Now it came out a little bit short, because I was originally rushing to get this done before I left home and like came back to school. But I decided to keep it, and that way I can lengthen the body because it's really cropped right now, and then I can just ship it out and send it their way before their trip. So this is what she looks like. I just need to, I was thinking of sewing in one of my tags so that you can tell where the back is, so you can tell the difference between the back and the front. And then I also need to sew up these armholes by just like an inch or maybe an inch and a half. But besides that, this should be done hopefully this week. I need to work on it this week, and then I can ship it out immediately, ASAP. So that is this off the shoulder top. The next thing I want to show you is a whip from this summer. Okay, we have to do emergency, not surgery, but I need to put a bigger needle on this so that the stitches don't slip off because I'm borrowing the needles for a different project. So let's do that really quick. Okay, we're good. So that concludes our finished objects, and now we're going to move on to whips. The last thing I casted on this summer was a cabled tank. So this is what I have so far. This is the, let's get the name. Okay. So this is the Ringo Top by May Bruns. And I believe I'm knitting, the third size to fit the bust circumference of 36 to 38 inches or 91.5 to 96.5 centimeters. So this is a all over cabled tank top that has a high neck, and I believe it's finished with an I-cord finish, an I-cord edge. And so it basically has a thick panel of ribbing, and then it's all over cables. So yeah, it's knit with I think 2 inches of negative ease. And so the final measurements for my size would be 33 inches around the bust, or 84 centimeters. So that should be the perfect fit for me. I have only knit a small portion so far, and I actually shortened the length of the ribbing at the bottom. I think I did like 1.5 inches or 2 inches of ribbing. But the pattern says you can basically knit it to whatever length you desire. You don't have to follow that portion exactly. You just have to make sure that you do one setup row for all the cables. So basically there is a chart, and I believe there's also written instructions to help you figure out the layout of all the cables for your size. And this is only my second ever cable pattern, so I was a little bit cautious when going into this. I made sure to study the pattern before I actually cast it on, because I just wanted to make sure that I wouldn't have crazy issues while I was doing the setup. I just wanted to make sure everything was laid out in the most straightforward way possible for my brain. That way I could kind of, I guess, not be overly dependent on the pattern. I want to be able to read my work. So it's going well so far. I actually haven't worked on this in maybe 2 months. I kind of took a break to work on some other things, but it's always here if I ever want something more engaging, as a break from just stocking it in the round. So yeah, I chose to knit this in the Knitting for Olive cotton merino once again, and it's in the shade Coal. And I chose this so that it would kind of offset the kind of busy nature of all the cables, and I think the black would just be paired well with a lot of the clothes in my closet. So when the light hits it, you kind of get to see everything that's happening, but it's also not like overly flashy, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm very excited to continue working on this, and I may not get to wear it until next summer, but that's okay. I just have time to kind of work on it slowly as I please. So the next whip that I have to show you is, oh wait, actually I do have another finished object. Okay, I forgot about this. This is an all over garter stitch scarf, and it's actually a free pattern called The Simple Thing by Melina Brell. So I was searching on Ravelry for a scarf pattern. I wanted to use up my one ball of this worsted weight merino wool, and I was searching and found this free pattern and decided that I would knit it off gauge, since the pattern calls for DK weight yarn on 4.5mm needles. Instead, I just used this worsted weight yarn on the same needle size. So this is what it looks like. It's got this really beautiful midnight blue color, slightly variegated, with some like highlights and lowlights, and it's just very beautiful, very plushy and soft, and I'm really excited to wear it this winter. So this was my first time doing an applied I-cord, the I-cord edge, and I really enjoyed that because you basically knit it as you go, and then you just bind off with Kitchener stitch, which this was also my first time doing that, and then you're basically done. There's nothing else to do but to block it, and I really enjoyed that process. I think that's it for this. Yeah, I used the Luminous Brooklyn Stellar yarn. I think it's called Stellar, and this one is in the shade Nocturnal. I purchased this yarn when I was visiting home in New York at a local yarn shop, and I really wanted to test out their yarn, which is why I only bought one skein. And this was the perfect project to use that up. Okay, now back to active whips. Let's see. I guess I'll show this one first. Okay, so the video that I recorded previously, which is on my channel, was a fall knitting plans video, and in that video I talk about wanting a matcha green sweater to wear this fall / winter, and so I purchased this yarn, which is the Holzgarn Super Soft Wool in the shade Calypso, and I got one cone of this, and then I'm pairing that with this random mohair that I don't know where I got it from, that was in my stash, and I'm holding the Holzgarn double, and then I'm holding that with one strand of the merino, and I'm using that combination to make the Lakes V-neck pullover. So I basically bought the yarn and cast it on in August, and I did like the entire body in a couple weeks, and I finished the hem and everything and the collar, and then I kind of just cast it to the side. I did start one of the sleeves, but there's a couple things that is stopping me. So number one, I had to take a break so that I could harvest more yarn. I used the merino in a crochet project, and if you know anything about crochet and mohair, it's really hard to frog the mohair, but I'm taking my time and I'm being very careful. And I actually did a decent amount. I think I should be able to get through the sleeve with this much. And then I have this other ball, and if you can see, this is not just one strand, it's 3 combined. So in this crochet project, I basically held the mohair triple, and so that's been taking me a really long time to undo. And I'm trying not to like cut too much of it, so it just takes a lot of patience, and I needed a break to kind of sit down and do that. And then once I have enough, I'll come back and finish these sleeves. Another thing that's been holding me back is I don't own a pair of circulars, like circular shorties that are in the size 5.5 or 5. I only have 4.5, 3.5. I have 3.75, and that's like really good for DK sweaters, for the sleeves. But I don't own any shorties for these chunkier knits, and I kind of want to purchase one because I'm kind of just feeling like I can't get in the flow using Magic Loop. And I think I would be more inclined to work on it if I had the right size circular needles. So I think I'm going to invest in that, and I'm trying to decide whether I should only get the 5.5 and then knit the ribbing with Magic Loop, since it's a shorter amount. I think I could do that, or if I should get both so that I could. There's another project that I have. It is a hibernating whip. It's the cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I have the same thing where I need to buy more yarn, and I also think I would like to get a 5mm circular needle. So, you know, something to think about. But here she is. I really love the color. The mohair adds like a nice warmth to it. And I really love this green. It's like the perfect green color, matcha green. So yeah, this one will be done before you know it. Definitely before winter. I'll probably get a lot of time to work on it over Thanksgiving break. So, okay. On to acquisitions / my other whips. Okay. So the first acquisition that I have is actually thrifted yarn. So I took a trip to upstate New York while I was visiting home this summer, and I went with my friends to this thrift store, and I found this knitted vest. It was knit in all over garter stitch, and I believe it was paneled, like knit flat and then seamed together. So I was able to take it apart pretty easily, besides like a couple parts where I had to like throw away tiny scraps. But the main panels gave me like a decent amount of yarn. So I decided to take it apart and wash it. And I did this because I wanted to knit something that had a better fit than the original vest. And I just thought maybe I could knit something that I would actually get more wear out of. So this is the yarn. This is kind of what it looked like. It's still pretty curly. And I think that's because there is some acrylic content. So I'm not really sure if it will take to blocking, but I'll try a couple different methods. But yeah, this is the yarn all caked up. It's like this really pretty baby blue color, and I have the perfect buttons to pair with this yarn. Maybe I can insert a photo that I took of like a little swatch and then the buttons. It's like the perfect match. So I haven't worked on this in a really long time because I'm not exactly sure if I want to continue. I may scrap it and try something different, but basically I had the idea to freehand like a raglan button-up top. I'm not sure if you could call it a shirt or a sweater, I don't know. It's gonna be short sleeve. I'm gonna do like a couple short rows to shape like a sleeve cap, and then I'm gonna sew on some buttons onto one side, and it'll just be like a button-up top. As I said before, I'm not sure if I want to continue with this. And also I had the thought that the other day, I was like, wait, I'm gonna add buttons to this, and I didn't do the buttonholes for like the top portion. So thinking about it now, I think I have to frog it and start over. But that's okay. I'm really inspired by like the color and just the fact that I like thrifted it. I want to give it a second life. So whatever I do with this, I know it'll be worth it. But this is what it's looking like so far. It's a really beautiful color. So yeah, that is my acquisition / whip. Okay, and then I have one last acquisition that I've been experimenting with, and that is the Holzgarn Super Soft in the color Cranberry. Again, this is a 100% wool yarn. It's fingering, or maybe even light fingering weight yarn, and it calls for 3 to 3.5 millimeter needles. So I got one 50-gram ball of this color just so I could kind of test it out and see if I liked it. I decided to cast on a lace pattern repeat. I forget what it's called. Is it pointelle pattern? Like a pointelle lace pattern? I think so, something like that. But I saw like these little skinny scarves by this designer. I can't remember her name, but I saw this on Instagram, and she basically knit these little skinny scarves out of mohair or some sort of light, like feathery lace, and it gives it like a really pretty texture. And I just wanted to experiment knitting this stitch pattern just to gain some more experience and have some fun, you know? I'm not knitting this for like any specific purpose. It's kind of just to test out the yarn color and also like, I don't know, just knit for fun. And I have tried a lace pattern before. I believe, number one, I knit the Ophelia blouse by Starcrossed Knits. which has a little bit of lace. And then I've also I knit and frogged the Josephine top. I think that's what it's called, by Claudia Quintanilla. Yes, I believe it's called the Josephine top, which I really enjoyed. Like, I really loved knitting that lace design, but then I frogged it for other reasons. So I just wanted to knit lace, so that's what I did, and here she is. I'm not sure if I'll ever finish this, or maybe I'll just cast off and, block it and see how the yarn reacts to blocking. That would be a good test to see how, if it softens up or anything. Or maybe I'll block it and keep it on the stitch holder and decide if I want to knit it longer and actually use it as a little scarf, even though it's a little bit itchy. I was thinking maybe I could experiment with hair conditioner. I believe I've heard someone say that adding a little bit of conditioner to warm water can help soften up a pretty scruffy wool texture. So yeah, that is my acquisition. And with that, I believe we've gotten through everything. Yeah, so that's everything I've had to show you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed watching. I've gotten through a lot of projects these past few months, and there's a lot more I hope to show you guys in the future. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.